So I am here at the town of Elbe in just outside of Morton, Washington, a pretty well-known spot where what looks like volcanic runoff still comes down from Mount Rainier, I assume, probably several other mountains too, and washes down into Lake Elbe. And if you've been following the history of trackways, hoax trackways, then you may have heard of Elbe already. So I think it's fair to say that whoever hoaxed the Elbe Trackway after 2012 did a good enough job to fool a lot of experts in the field. And there was one name in particular that came out, a guy by the name of, well, we'll just say his initials, ES, was blamed for hoaxing a lot of Bigfooters. I think, well, there was well over 7 or 8 Bigfooters from all over Washington that had come down here to the lake bed, much like the London tracks, and were celebrating their track find and found out that this beautiful track find, the provenance in particular, I think the IP address for the anonymous email that was sent about the origins of the trackway came back to a guy that basically had a bone to pick with Bigfooters. The person that was blamed for hoaxing the tracks said he didn't hoax them, that he had some aggressive people coming after him, and it kind of scared him off. As far as hoax tracks go, these were not just rigid stoppers. They're very believable not anthropomorphic, but very believable looking, anatomical, human looking, barefooted, large tracks. And I don't know the specs on it all. I just know that it was really convincing. So if they were hoaxed, they were done by somebody that really had a special skill set. Now, one of the rumors is that this guy had such a bone to pick with Bigfooters that he practiced, or the urban legend says that he actually would skydive. He was a skydiver. And as he was coming down, he would have his big feet on, and as he was coming down, he would take large steps as he was coming down from his parachute to simulate the inline large gait. You know, the podcast really has talked about everything under the sun. It started out here on a lake bed in Cottage Grove, Oregon, and we've interviewed everybody from conspiracy theorists about coronavirus to conversations about time travel and Satanism, the Tasmanian tiger. But this is kind of where I find my center. How can you not? Look at this. You're crazy not to want to go explore something like this. Now, we are far away from the river, and I think the tracks were closer to the river's edge. In fact, I know they were, because I'm looking at a map right now. We got elk and deer all over here. I don't see any bear, though. I would imagine bear coming here would be a pretty easy deal. Now, here's some boot tracks. Now, this looks like an old ungulate trail a little bit, but that looks like a human track. There. That's where I want to get. You guys see my fanny pack? Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. Just wear it on your hip like a gunslinger. And you're not a pansy ass. You got yourself a satchel. Here's some more tread. Well, it feels like we're in Alaska, huh? All right, so here's the river flowing into Elbe Lake, I guess. Just looking for anything that looks out of the ordinary. Now they're finding woven stick branches, kind of like this action, tied together out near Mount Rainier too, all over the place. Low levels on these kind of branches, up high. Now if you stepped on that, you would be in a whole lot of trouble. Well, I guess not that bad, but the sand just erodes and builds back up every year, I guess. Someone had a private campground here at one time. Now, if we can find a stick weave or a branch weave, and it is in an interesting spot, then we can kind of assume that this is a trafficked area for individuals. I don't know if you can say juveniles or a family group. I don't claim to know any of that. I've only seen, I think I've seen the feet of a Bigfoot at the Al Moon Lab, like 4:30 in the morning outside when I was waiting in my zero gravity chair. And why do I think it was a Bigfoot? Well, when it caught on that my Bluetooth speaker clicked, it scared it because it was sneaking around the driver's side of my Jeep in front of me about 35 feet or so, 40 feet at the most. And I just saw the light-colored feet walking through the gravel. And they stopped right in front of the, right behind the front tire on the driver's side. I could see these light-colored 2 feet. And it was dark, so they had to have been light because it was super dark. If they were black, I don't think I could have seen it. There was no moon. And as soon as I went to get a closer look from leaning up, it made the initial gravel crunch as it turned around. And then it ran without making a sound through the gravel, which is impossible. Even a kitty cat. And we had recorders out too. And so many things that happened there. This is how we knew there wasn't an abundance or anyone hoaxing us, is because of the approach, like I said, was like Mission Impossible when Tom Cruise would come down on his little zip line in that infamous Mission Impossible scene. That's what it reminded me of, like something had to come through this giant gravel driveway to get close enough to the objects that were being set out or taken or messed with. And there was hardly ever a sound of anything running away or approaching. Now I did record the sound of something running away from my trailer, and it sounds like a human dashing off down the gravel driveway. But I'm sleeping in the trailer outside the window as this thing, I'm totally unaware. I'm getting ready for work, like working split shift or graveyard shift as a trucker, and I'm totally unaware just an oar. I'm totally unaware of that there's something outside my trailer, but we have our recorders going all the time. So it catches the sound of me getting up from bed, because it was a tiny camper that was kind of squeaky, and the bearings or it made a squeak sound when I'd get up. But before that, you could hear outside something eating, because my trailer was right up against the blackberry bushes. And the blackberry bushes were in season. So you hear the sound of something stripping the thorny vines and masticating and chewing and slurping on, I assume, blackberries. And I'd be a fool not to assume that because of what we found later, but in that same audio clip, you can hear whatever it is chewing run away on 2 legs. Now, what human strips blackberries? I don't even care if you have leather gloves on. You're not stripping a vine of thorns and eating blackberries if you're a human. But yes, that time, it sounded like a man. Wasn't that quick, wasn't that heavy sounding, but crunch, crunch, crunch. You could hear it run either down the gravel road or into the tree line. Now look at all this. Wow. See, now I think if you cross this, you should get a lot less foot traffic over here. You're gonna get game trails, but you know, people don't generally come down in galoshes or rubber boots. They usually just get bored and pull off in their sneakers or their hiking boots. Most people aren't prepared to fight with the elements. One of the things that are reported are reports of Sasquatch eating mineral clay. I don't know if that's through scat or how they determine that, but there would be basically like vitamins waiting for them and the correct kind of mineral deposit. Okay, so I reached the end of the beach. You could walk up this ridge line. Holy crap, that's why there's a, is that Mount Rainier? I mean, I don't know if you can see that now. I think it is. That's why that cloud's there. It's right over the top of Mount Rainier. Oh my God. What a sight. Sorry, I'm like a dog. It's a broken piece of PVC pipe that must have floated down the river over there. It reminds me of the Brenda Harris video when J.C. Johnson was still investigating that property, that cryptid Four Corners guy. And one of the farmers found that their PVC irrigation system had been picked up, ripped like in half in the middle, and the gaskets torn off of it, and then totally flipped around. I mean, there's a long section of plastic. And they found a dead skunk. Well, first of all, they found bloody scratches on the PVC pipe. And you could see, for example, blood scratches coming here, and it tore the irrigation gaskets off of there. And it was chasing a skunk. And they found a dead skunk on or near or in the irrigation pipe that looked like it had been hiding from something that ripped out the scent gland. Ripped out the scent gland. And that's it. Something took the scent gland out of the skunk. That's what its main interest was. So maybe here's a theory. Maybe something uses those scent glands as a defensive or offensive tool, like a little bioweapon. I mean, one of the rumors is that that skunky smell that people talk about is used to get humans away from at-risk juveniles in the area. And then I've heard only the older ones stink. I don't know. Okay, so there's some more tracks here. We're going to talk about these. What brought me over to this barefooted trackway was this. It looked like a fire ring to me. Maybe that's what it was. I assume Long ago, that's what it was. There's no charcoal or anything poking out of it, so I assume that's what it is, but maybe that's not. Maybe that's something more interesting, because it's a tiny one. I came over here and took a pee, and I set out my tape measure. So things begin right here. You can see right, left, right, left, right. I'm sorry, that looks like a right. It does to me anyway. And that looks like a right as well. But that looks like a left foot. Let me see if I can turn down the contrast there. You can see. And so between, it's about 27 inches from toe to toe. And here you can definitely see a right toe. So it's about 11 inches. And then things break into two sections of trackways. Now I'm going to point my camera up this way here and just follow my logic. I'm not saying this is one thing or another, but we're just following definitely some barefooted tracks. So they're going, and they kind of pigeon toe out, which is something I don't look for. That's what humans walk like in the mud. But typically these tracks look like a tightrope, kind of the way Groucho Marx throws his foot in front of himself when he stacks or walks around. Now this one here really is interesting. It's old though. Look at this one. Look at the narrow heel and the fat foot opening up here. It's going. I haven't gotten this far, but I will show you. Look at over here. Another trackway. So there's one here, one there, and it crosses over this log. Okay, I haven't followed this one yet, and it's hard to say that they didn't come from that stone circle. So, did someone this summer have a fire, all the charcoal and remnants, or maybe they never lit it, are gone, and then they walked away barefooted? Yeah, that's the most likely answer, right? Okay. That is same size, 11.5-ish. Walk back here. Walked over here. I mean, there's a lot going on. I don't see any. I hear a dog or something howling over here. I mean, if we find really good tracks, I ain't leaving. I ain't. These are pretty good. I mean, interesting. They're definitely better than boots. But if you don't have boots, you're going to walk around barefooted. There's no glass out here. Humans are going to do that, especially kids. There's probably little creeks here in the summer kids want to check out. Oh, shit, what am I stepping on? Okay, it starts here. There's the other one. Let's see what the step length is. 25 inches. What do you think about all this? Save some battery. When in doubt, cast it, right? I think that's a David Ellis quote. I'm leaning towards human, but it just goes to show you that you can find some beautiful places when out Bigfooting. I mean, is that the lesson? That view? This is less important, I guess, than that? Let's see here. There we go. Now, it's also in line with this track here. So it's only about 22 inches. It's a size 10, so it's a different individual than this track over here. That one definitely is interesting. Look at how the toe slipped out here. And then there's a separate one following it this way because they're a different size. This is a size 10. And this one's a little bit bigger. It's an 11. All right, the sun is officially down. The moon is officially up. And I am making sure I got everything. I'm headed out of here. Interesting day all in all. Looks like cotton candy. Can you see that? Look at that. That looks just like cotton candy to me. Mount Rainier right beside that view. All right, well, I'm gonna save some battery. And we may be back here. Okay, so it is day 2. I'm headed back to the spot. It's the next day. It's 7 in the morning, and I am at a masonry store outside of Tacoma, Washington. And the reason I'm here is because of hydrocal. That's what you're gonna want to use. And it'd be easier to get your hands on plaster, fix it all, other patching compounds, but you're gonna want to work with hydrocal if you're gonna go cast tracks, which is what my intention to do that today is cast these tracks. Now, are these tracks anything other than human? Most likely human tracks, but you know, it's like going to the gun range. You got to go out and cast something sometime, be it bear or whatever. And so get yourself in a position to where you have the right stuff with you, and you're headed out to the bush. So this is about a 2-hour drive back to where we found those. And you're gonna want to plan ahead. So I brought supplies, the main one being this. And so hydrocal, what's it gonna run you if you buy a big bag? Well, you're gonna want to buy the 50-pound bag. It shouldn't be more than 30 bucks. You could buy dental stone, that'll be 40 bucks, whatever. Hydrocal's great. It dries quick, it sets up quick, and you don't have to carry a lot of water when it does that. And the price on that comes back at $26.93. Yeah, I'm just watching the bank card ring up. So the next time we talk, we'll be at the lake bed with everything laid out, and I'll explain where we go from there. All right, we'll see you in a bit. All right, we're here. Made it here about 9 o'clock in the morning. So today will be casting for dummies. And you'll feel like a dummy a little bit if it is a print that you're casting that looks like a human track, but this is more casting and due diligence. Things that I do, things that other people do different. You'll get a lot of opinions. It is cold. The sun's not out in this part yet. I'm walking into the sun, but you can see it's a frozen tundra. We'll get in the area and I'll show you what we're doing today. Should be fun. Okay, we're here. Pretty sure, yeah, this is the spot. Our tour starts now as far as issues that you're gonna have casting in the morning, high in altitude, and this is going to be an issue. You're going to have to wait a little bit for that ice to melt before you cast, because you're going to lose definition for sure. Because there's track number 1. Well, not number 1, but the one that I want to cast today. And then here is the rest of the track line. So let's get started here. First of all, the tripod that I'm shooting this video on snap because I went to tighten one of the knobs too hard. So the tripod just broke. If you're going to come out here and film with a tripod, I guess there's a million reasons you can use these things. These are just from the little grocery store, grocery outlet here in the Pacific Northwest. We have a cheap store that sells everything from knickknacks to food to you name it, wine, beer. And these are really cool. So I fixed the tripod just with that. And they're light. Keep them in your pack. You can stick a lot inside an Amazon pack for like 25 bucks. You can get a nice pack and stick a bunch of stuff in it. And I've got a bunch of stuff here, so let me show you what we're talking about. First of all, Harbor Freight, it's got some stainless steel tweezer sets. After this ice melts, we'll be taking a look in here. Now, if you find hair, especially Irish setter red hair inside a track, your chances are a whole lot better. You're looking at something that's not human, you know. Traditionally, people don't have Irish setter red hair on or near the soles of their feet. This little number here for like $4 at Harbor Freight. These are just little eye loop set. You can get nice and tight in there. I mean, your phone can do that too for you. That's a really convenient thing to have always. But this says 10 times magnification, and you can get right down in there and take a nice look. You could probably put this on the lens of your iPhone, I bet, and magnify it. Let's try that. You're gonna get plenty messy today. Any kind of wipe will do, but this episode of Squatching for Dummies is not brought to you by Dude Wipes, but wouldn't it be nice? You're gonna need some water. Just bring a gallon of water. Hopefully you'll be by a water source of, you know, visible clear water, and you can fill this back up if you need to. Now, we stopped and got a 50-pound bag of plaster. We're not going to carry that all the way to the car. We're going to get a hold of Pablo Escobar and get some of that nice nose candy size style hydrocal in these freezer bags. So, you know, you don't want to sniff it. If the day gets too long, you probably feel like you should sniff it. We're going to mix this. It's a to-go kit, and do it right in the bag. And just like a cake decorator would do, we're going to snip the bottom, and these tracks are not fragile at all. It's thick clay. So we can just go in there with a nice, viscous, almost melted shake-style consistency. Now, you're going to hear a lot of people comment in the section here about how I'm doing this all wrong. Most of that's just good intention. Sometimes it's, you know, the alpha male. They just get envious of the fact that you're out here in the woods. Not so much that you think you're casting Sasquatch tracks, because honestly, I'm leaning that these are human tracks. Gloves. Just bring 2 or 3 pairs. I always like to get the nitrile thick Harbor Freight models. These are really tough, and you can use them over and over. They don't just rip easily. A stir stick, you know, to get inside that bag if you have to, if there's a clump you can't get rid of. I mean, if your water's too cold, it will set up differently than if your water's lukewarm or kind of warm. So you may need something like this. Nice feature, though, is that it has a ruler. I would just go ahead and grab yourself a tape measure from Home Depot and keep that with you. 8 feet's going to be plenty. It's going to get cold, too. You're going to have to carry these tracks out, back to the car. It's a good 12 to 15-minute walk. So bring some gloves. Tom Powell, author of Edges of Science, Shady Neighbors, and The Locals, taught me to go ahead and put a wire in the back of the hydrocal as it's setting. So you're going to snip off like a 4-inch section of braided wire, and just as it's curing at the right moment, you're going to put the left and right end down in the plaster, and you'll have a little wall hanger ready to go. So you got your snips and your little $4 wire thing. So now we're getting into the fact that you're not looking into a giant mountain monkey. If you are taking something from the land where a Sasquatch was, it's already supercharged in what you're taking. There's a paranormal fingerprint, for lack of a better word, or signature, maybe like a half-life, embedded in the eDNA, or the environmental DNA of what you're taking. That I believe strongly. You talk to Mel Scahan, Yakima Native American, about taking Sasquatch hair sometime. You talk to a lot of Native Americans and a lot of people like myself and Daryl Adams that have had interesting stuff happen when you've taken tracks. So I'm leaving behind a gift. Tobacco, can't go wrong with that. That goes back generations to leave by. And what's better than Clint Eastwood's Dirty Harry backwood cigar? And we had good luck with acceptance of Trader Joe's sardines. They would literally pull back the tab and they would be pulled out without anything done to the can. Remote woods. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to set this out in the area. Probably going to set it in the spiral. And that's, yeah, I'm calling it a spiral. Could be a fire pit. Let's say these are human tracks. We're bypassing all that. We're talking about finding impressions in the dirt, what to do next, and you know, when in doubt, cast it concept. And let's get started. So that's the track line. I don't know if you can see that or not. And this is where we're going to be working out of first of all. Now, I measured the track line yesterday. And because of the ice, it looks extra deep. It's not that deep. So there is, God, over an inch of ice crystals here. That's not helpful. But I measured 22. And because of the ice, it's more deceiving. It's coming out to like 27 here. It's definitely longer than 22 though. So the stride did open up a little bit, and I'm going from toe to toe, from left to right, and then gonna do heel and just approximate it. It's about the same, 26, 25, 26, 25. And you can just kind of take an average off of that. This is about 26, 25. Shorter one here. 26, 25. We're not going to be able to do depth right now because of the ice. So this is my buddy Brett. We just met for the first time. Brett is an interesting dude, and his connection to the Al Moon Lab, he didn't even really know how much he was connected to it. But I've been telling you guys that property has a way of getting a hold of not only Bigfooters, but people that are open. And so we're going to talk about that. Maybe we can sit down, Brett, and do a little chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Brett was out here, and so he agreed to come help me cast the tracks. It's so frozen. I wish we were in this spot. There's no ice here. There's a weird dig mark right there, but I guess it's just a elk.
Yeah, elk.
There's a bird sanctuary. I saw a bald eagle, so maybe that's that. But Brett agreed to try to jump this and show me how a Sasquatch would do it. So I'm going to film him, and Brett's explaining some of his experiences. So what's the general area we're talking about? Don't give us specifics, but we're talking north of Seattle.
Yeah, North Cascades.
North Cascades area there. So we're going to do a conference in February. Brett's agreed to take us into some squatchy areas up that way. And we're going to do some recording. That's the main goal. In fact, I'd like to talk people out of bringing cameras into the woods that day to see if we can get more activity just with audio equipment. We found an old road out here in the lake bed, which is the last thing I expected to see was these trees, the maple trees, right? There's like poplar, there's Doug fir. I mean, that's nothing but ash and sand for miles. And we found an old road. There's a washout bridge heading to the area we were trying to get to. But now we're headed back to the trackway on this really cool, now it's a trail. Do some log crawling here. Let's see Brett's technique. Let's see your log crawling technique. Okay.
We are rolling.
Okay, cool. All right, so the interesting thing about this too is that the permafrost that has come up through this layer has shown us that the tracks, which didn't look this disturbed yesterday, are more recent than we thought, which is still a human possibly out here walking barefoot in December, which is weird, but you know, so what? Things are weird. I probably over poured my Pablo Escobar candy, nose candy here, but I got 4 bags of this because I didn't know if we were going to run into Papa Squatch. So this is too much plaster probably for this bag, but we're going to do it anyway. And you know, there's a river here. It's good, clean, fresh snow melt, glacier melt, snow melt coming off of right here. And so if we needed more, we could get it. So I'm just going to pour this in here. Now you could warm this water up and leave it in the sun, and it will set quicker. The colder it is, it's going to be harder to get it to do its job. And it's, you know, setting up like concrete will. It's going to get warm though, really warm when it does its job. And you won't need this. You'll use this as your ruler because I left my measuring tape in the car. See how it's kind of like a melted milkshake? Because these tracks are in thick clay, it's not going to you're not going to get destroyed. They're already, a lot of them are ruined because of the permafrost. But if this was like in silt, or if it was in something dusty, you know, or like something that had potential of blowing away or getting dented as you were pouring into it, because this is heavy, it could dent the track, and then you might have a new toe, or you get rid of a dermal that way. That's why they do the splatter technique, where you go in here, you dip your fingers, and you lightly splatter in the cast, then you let it dry. But for these, I'm not worried about that. So this is the first one. Now, they say when you find a track that you should cast it the way it is. Now, your temptation is to remove stuff to make it look cooler. Don't do that, because you could accidentally get rid of a dermal ridge, or you could knock a piece of duff down in there. So, I mean, if it's a little leaf or something, you can get to it, maybe with some tweezers. But I just say cast it the way you find it. That's data. That's information, right? So let me grab this ruler. So yesterday we said these are about 11 inches. So here's 7 inches right there. And I'll just mark it. 8, 9, 10, 11. I'd say about 11 inches. And no, maybe about 3 inches wide. So it's all within human range. So depth is what, out of everything I haven't measured, this is the most interesting thing, because as we're walking around here, we commented on it earlier. Yesterday I didn't leave any tracks like this. Today I didn't. So the depth is pretty important, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty...
It's 2.5 inches deep in the heel. So let's just pour a couple here. Now, I'm not going to do anything special at all, because this is, you know, just what it is. It's going to set up easy. And I would go to the top of the earth. That's going to tell your depth, and go right past it, because now you know what the depth is, what the real depth is.
So how long will it take for something like this to fully cure?
Oh, less than an hour. And you know, the warmer the water, the quicker the cure. So this stuff, it doesn't mold.
Oh, so like a big footprint would mold?
Yeah, this patching compound would. If you did plaster or fix-it-all in particular, which is what I use when you can't get anything else. If you don't have that in the right environment, it will attract mold to it and get black, especially if it's not totally cured. I've never had that problem with hydrocal, and it's just so much more resilient. Like, you could pour a really thin coat of it, and you would have a really durable track. So the other thing I'm going to try to do is, after I pour these, I'm going to go do what Tom Powell taught me, is get a little bit of wire, and we're going to poke it in left and right so these we can hang.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I met Tom Powell once at a conference. It was a conference, and he told me about that. He's like, "Oh, I keep telling Jeff to do it. You know, Jeff tells him to do it, but he doesn't do it."
Yeah.
It's so perfect so people can hang on it.
Yeah.
And it is too.
I guess you could always do a test pour before you pour into a track to see where your consistency is. And you could see, oh, I still got lumps here. So if you're working with something that's not as good as this, that's like dust, I mean, you could, this will sit, and this will probably be here in 2021, you know, that fingerprint, it's very durable. And then there's another one here, so I'm gonna, since it's a smaller impression, and we measured it all yesterday. Okay. That one's gonna go right to the surface there. So I think the heel comes down into here. And we could pour more plaster over the top of it, because I think the heel is actually down in here. Right, any of this braided wire, you could use a coat hanger. Anything would work. You could use your shoelace. It's gonna bind no matter what. Now, if you're gonna make a copy of this cast, a duplicate, you may not want to do this, because then you're gonna have a wire that you have to work around in order to make a duplicate. So we did 1, 2, 3, but I'm gonna pour more plaster on that one. So we'll come over here, you know, just a little tiny U with little hoops on the side. And what's that? That's gonna bind in here a lot better than if you just stick a wire in there. And then you're just gonna comb over it. Here's a toe one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
This is like the perfect consistency here. But I really want to get this one, so let's make sure we leave some. This is all we got here. Okay. So we'll just throw some, the last thing we're going to do is just put some wire in them, and then you wait maybe 45 minutes and pop them and go. They'll just pop right out, and we'll show you how all that works. So Brett is going to fill us in on the missing person. If you watch the last Twin Peaks video I did at the R&R diner there, I showed a picture of her. There you go. Okay, so we saw that, just like Laura Palmer, they have a missing person sign sitting up at the R&R window. Brett knows about this case, and he said it's pretty strange. What's so strange about it?
Well, she just vanished, and you know, it's...
And what's her name?
Shirley Bauman.
Okay.
She went missing July 22nd last year. Search and rescue found her camp. She was halfway up Lake Blevins, and they can't find her, and it's just a unremarkable valley. So you would figure that, you know, and she's 68, and there's just not a lot of places you can go to get lost. So it's a really interesting one, just because she just vanished without a trace. And you know, me and some other people went there last year to you know, or this year to try. I think, did I say July last year? I meant July this year. But,
that recent? Yeah, it seemed recent when I saw the sign.
Yeah, July this year. So we went out looking. We actually, it's weird that we found where she camped. We found like this old shirt in the fireplace. I got pictures and
not her shirt.
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
I sent all the pictures because I work with the families after search and rescue ends. Because search and rescue, you know, is deployed for, you know, about 5 days until, you know, you know, it's usually about 5 days because there's a lot to do with
Yeah.
it. But so I meet with families afterwards to try and help resolve the issue, especially in areas that I know and go. And this was just one of the mini ones. And yeah, it's a really bizarre one because I was out there and we just can't find her. There's no signs of her. Search and rescue can't find her. The search dogs can't find her. And there was just one print that is suspected to be hers. And you know, it's where she was. And so it's just a really bizarre one. I would say, you know, out of all the people that I've been dealing with missing people, this is probably one of the more unusual ones because it's a place that she should be found.
Yeah.
But the good news is you know, we're definitely going to put a lot of time in next year to try and go back to that area to try and help locate it and bring a resolve to this.
Right.
Hopefully, because it's just, yeah, you know,
It breaks your heart.
it does. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And you know, working with some of these families, it's you know, it's you know, it's something that Bigfooters should do more since we're already out in this area, you know, doing all this exploring, and we already have all the gear, so we should be helping out more in that regards too. And so yeah, that was the one. It's funny that you went to the R&R because I was there like literally a few days probably before that, and yeah, and her missing sign is right there. So yeah, it's
So you know the family members, like
yeah.
her daughter?
her daughter, yeah.
Yeah. How weird is it, Brett, that the synchronicities between you and me right now are kind of layer caking here?
Yeah.
This is a new one, and it's not nothing to do with Cottage Grove.
Yeah. Well, the fact that you went to the Twin Peaks Cafe, because
Yeah.
we actually, me and my girlfriend went there and ate,
Yeah.
you know, and got takeout food there.
Yeah.
That was interesting. But the whole Cottage Grove one, that's so bizarre that, I mean, you don't have to be woo or anything like that to find that. It's
Right.
beyond bizarre.
Yeah. It's not next block. It's not like, you know, 100 yards away. It's 20 feet away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's 20
Yeah.
feet away.
Yeah.
You know, it's right there. And you thought like, oh, you mean like down the block? I'm like, no. You stand on the patio, that's them.
You could throw a rock at their house.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how. Yeah.
If they farted in there, you would hear it outside.
Yeah, it's a very close house. It's very unusual how just that whole connection came about. I mean, it's got my attention.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
for sure.
synchronicity, you know, that's the way it goes, and you just pay attention to those kind of things. And I don't know, we're just waiting to see if these tracks dry for us to pull them out. Then you got to get going because you've got another witness to hang out with. Some more. You're actually going squatching tonight to do a.
Yeah, I'm going to go do a overnight. Well, I'm going solo tonight. I'm just meeting up with somebody who's going to be in the area that you know, is kind of in the same circle of people.
Yeah.
And you know, just I don't know how long he's going to stay or anything, but
Right.
yeah, I'm just going to stay overnight.
And you're doing like an audio recording session here, and you hope to do one at the Almoon Lab.
Yep.
And yeah, you're all about it. So what do you use?
Well, I got permission to, so it's
Right.
And I got 5 acres to work with. I have permission to go on there, and I've already, like I said before, I've already had experiences on there of.
Go ahead.
I already had an experience on there of a yell coming straight from the woods, and that's what it was. And it was all before I even knew you about that whole property, or the property even has Sasquatch. I was just out there taking pictures, enjoying my day, you know. And it's like, oh, I hear it, and it's like I just discounted it. I was just like, oh, there's got to be a truck on the freeway, and I just went about doing what I wanted to do. And yeah.
Now, while we were casting these tracks, I was talking about listen to the woods, blah blah blah. You said you heard something. What did you hear?
Yeah, 2 knocks straight out this way. It was a dunk, just like that.
And that's before we had the cameras on.
Before we had the cameras on, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I've heard a lot of wood knocks over the last couple of years that it was a wood knock. I mean, it's not a.
And we were over there. There's no houses over here.
Not that
there's an old abandoned
I think this
trail.
is a riverbed right here.
Yeah.
So it's like I think when it's the rainy season and all that, I think we're probably underwater. So if anybody's over there, man, they probably got some serious flooding issues.
There could be a Bigfooter over there. Someone.
I mean, it's always a possibility. You just never know until you see it. You know, it's like I have all these experiences that I've had, but I'm not ever going to say it's Bigfoot just because I don't know. I didn't see it. Most likely was.
But you're a master tracker now, so we can trust.
Yeah. Self-proclaimed.
Dude, you do search and rescue. That's a ballsy pastime to have, and so it puts you in a different category of respect.
Well, it's
as far as
something
I'm
that
concerned.
we all need to do more, and
Yeah.
it's something that
You'll-
over the next year I'm going to develop, after I get certified with search and rescue. I want to develop something that's going to be work in tandem with search and rescue to pass off
Yeah.
all the available information, because there's a real problem with now search and rescue is best of the best. They do everything, they're really good. It's just that transition period from when the family no longer is able to get their help,
Yeah.
because there's only so much funding for it and rules, regulations. That transition period is a real hard time for the family. Some of them don't live in the area. Some of them don't know what to do.
Right.
All this emotions that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And if there was something like an organization that can help those people out, that will be like a repository for information, so other people can go look in these areas and have all the information that's been collected by search and rescue, by all the people out there searching, posted online. So all this information can hopefully lead to finding the actual people and getting all this data together.
What is her name again?
Shirley Bauman.
And where'd she go missing?
Middle Fork, Lake Blevins, July 22nd, 2000.
Okay. So now people know where to go, what to do, and how to help. I mean, you don't have to be part of search and rescue. It's not like you're in a treacherous area to go.
I want to establish certain perimeters, because
Yeah.
I want to, because there's certain.
But I mean, if people are hiking out there, why not? Just say, keep your eye out for this gal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I want to have a website that is going to be like a repository, so people can go on there, have like a virtual map, and even have it search gridded off. So it's like, this is areas we search at this time, time. And so if people, there's a lot of people that like helping, and after search and rescue, there's always people there willing to help the families, and it's just getting all that energy and synergy together to go and get this all accomplished. And because I think we could do a better job at helping these people out after search and rescue is forced to end their deployment. So
yeah, that's a sad moment, that in between stage. So
yeah, well, I mean, I was up there at Marblemouth this year looking for a little boy who was suspected drowning, and that was the toughest one. Like it was a really tough one, because I found out halfway. I was out with the family. It was the most brutal hike that off trail stuff that I've ever done. I mean, it was bad, and
and he was never found?
Well, he was found 3 months later.
Oh, really?
And he nobody really knew what happened to him, but he did go in the water. His life jacket slipped off, and he drowned, and was eventually found on his remains were found on a sandbar like 10-15 miles away. But it's hard for the families. The families. I just think we can do more, and so that's what I'm kind of hoping. I want to get good regulations and a streamlined thing together, so anybody that wants to help out, it'll be an easy process for them, that they could, just like you're saying, just jump right in and do it. And I want to get Bigfooters to do it more, because they have that skill level, they have that desire to look for,
and they're willing to go off trail and do crazy stuff.
I mean,
go where Bigfoot would go.
Yeah, I mean, some of the best are Bigfooters, and get them out there to kind of help out, and so that's
okay. Well, then you heard it here first. There's going to be more to come on this for sure, because I'm interested in helping out. I've only done it twice, but I've never got to interview the family. But it was missing person cases, and they didn't have to be bizarre for me to be interested, but they were in areas where we were having activity. So I was like, well, that's strange. The circumstances are really strange, especially if it's multiple people in the same spot, and it shouldn't have happened over time. So all right, let's switch gears here. Let's see how we're doing. You would take it, and then you would dig it out slowly at the edge, and you would kind of wiggle it out, and then you would kind of roll it out of here. But this is just a baby guy, and it's just going to pop out there. Now, I can already see toes on this, but we knew there were toes there.
Yeah.
So there's one track. Let's grab a stick. This one's a bigger one. Now this stuff is already cold again. It went through the chemical activation process, right? And it got warm while we were gabbing. But it's plenty thick. And so you're going to want to wait on this for, I'd say, 48 hours before it cures, and just leave it in a living room, or something slightly heated. So you definitely don't want to have any chalkiness come off like it just did there. But you shouldn't be able to put your finger through it for certain. It should make a tapping sound when you hit it. And let's see. It's down there pretty deep, so you're going to want to dig it out a little bit. You don't want to break it, especially if it's a really impressive track. And that one's pretty deep. Depth. Now this one is wet on the edges still. But I think that's okay. That's just some thin stuff. There we go. Yeah, see, there's a little bit of hydrocal that got stuck down in there.
That had the really bad ice.
Yeah. Well, I think so. But the main thing is I can see that big toe poking through there. Okay. Are we got live? Okay, cool. So I'm gonna wash these in the order in which I remember them. So these are the 2 L's that I talked about earlier, and these are the 4 from the other side. So I'm gonna do the one I think is maybe the most promising first. And we're gonna pretend as though it's 48 hours later or something like that. You would want a current and not just this water sitting like this. Ideally, you would take a hose maybe at home and softly just get a soft bristle toothbrush and just come through on this, because it's ceramic. After 48 hours it's not going to slough off. You're not going to change dermaglyphs or striation marks or any of that on there. What is it, dermatoglyphics or anything? So I can see the toes. So here's what we walk away with. You got your toes, you got your ball of your foot, you got your, is that the medial angle, the outside angle of the left foot, and here's the arch. But that was the one out of all of them I was most interested in today, because it didn't get the ice permafrost coming out of it. The other ones did. But you can see the depth. You can see the arch there. You can see it really good here. So, yeah, I mean, it's size 12 is my boot. That's a size 10 there. That was the other one. That was the size 10. Okay. Well, the rest of these we'll clean up later, and I'll show you what they all look like. Okay, so a couple days have gone by. Here are the casts that we brought back, and you can see these are plainly looking human tracks. And why do I say that? Well, they match what you would want to see anatomically with an arch. The toes are pushed close together. The size is unremarkable. The step length was unremarkable. The depth was the only thing, but all we're going to say is that we got the timing a little bit off on when these tracks were here, because there was permafrost in the original video of the track, way more than I thought. So there's example of permafrost degradation. These holes in here, in fact, look at that. That's really cool. You can see how the permafrost actually was cast by the plaster. That is ice crystal that it was cast around. So that's really interesting. The first time I've cast that. So I'm trying to rush through these here to make a shorter video, because it is unremarkable. Now these were hard enough to where I just took a garden hose and squirted them down, and there was just no loss of detail at all here. So overall, we got what we came for. We cast the tracks. We got our measurements. They're all about a size 11 to 10. Step length was about between 20 to 24 inches, and no complaint gait. So it was a good experiment. Now we're going down here on each one of these, and we come over here to this guy. Now I mentioned the Elbe Trackway, as a known hoax from what I've been told. And here is one of the tracks from that trackway that was pulled out by a researcher by the name of Sean Larson out of Springfield, Oregon. And the tread that you can see down here, plainly marked as a boot print, was cast as well, as someone, I guess, attempted to kick the tracks. And I don't know if they accidentally stepped on it or they're trying to get rid of the tracks. But it is a really, I mean, look at how much more impressive the detail is on that track and what can be garnered out of silt and ash and sand like that was. And so look at how good a job they did with the toes even being brought together. So big, second big, third, fourth, and then the pinky wasn't cast, so this would just be a partial. But they even overlap. Someone spent some time doing that. And you can get in on some of the details here and start looking for dermatoglyphics or, what you'd call fingerprints of the toes or toe prints. And you're not getting any of those on this at all. So these are castings. This last final thing I'll mention here is if you don't want to do the Ziploc bag technique like I showed in there, then you want to carry in something bigger, more substantial. I would suggest carrying in a rubber bucket. It's something you can fold up easily, possibly. It's much lighter and less cumbersome than going with a regular bucket like that. So think about spending $9 at, I think this is just from a garden store. And when you pour plaster in something like this and you want to keep it, you're going to want something that's not rigid, because it's going to want to flex to pop out the debris that's in there. If it's rigid, it's not going to pop, and it's just going to build up like cake batter because you're not going to get it out in time to clean it out perfectly. So think about that. Think about how awesome you are. All right.